All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market and chart recap for Wednesday, the 3rd. A lot of things going on today. I will get to the themes and the movers for the day. Risk disclaimer in front of you. First, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only in this video. So, Fed Day, always a tricky day because you initially get a move at 2 p.m. Once the Fed kind of comes out with the language, but really what is the make or break time is at 2:30. And then the 2:30 is when the start of the press conference, and that goes on for about 45 minutes. Actually, about what they do today, 50 minutes, which is right about average, and they usually cut that press conference off at 3:20. So I said in the trading room today 3:15 to 3:25, and I nailed that today. Was the end of the end of the press meeting, or the press conference. All right. So what are the takeaways? Well, I mean, I talk very opinionated about the Fed on the Fed Day. And then, so I'll go through a couple things here in this in today's video about, my opinion about what the Fed is doing. But ultimately, it is what it is in trading. I don't really want to go outside of today and argue about what the Fed is doing, because that's not something that we can control as traders, investors. We really just try to have to learn to roll with the punches and, not stay on the wrong side of the market, but try to be on the right side of the market, which again is easier said than done on these particular days because it's very whippy price action. Also, one of the things that I'll say today too is a lot of times we get a more pronounced second day move, meaning like the day after the Fed meeting, once people have a chance to kind of once traders, investors have a chance to digest the information, then the market can really kind of pick a direction and go. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do that tomorrow. But let's talk a little bit about what we heard from Powell and what, so of course they raised interest rates by 25 basis points. That was fully expected or priced into the market. So now it becomes what are they going to do for the month of June and for the rest of the year? Well, you could see what the market is pricing in. The market is pricing in cuts. Did Powell indicate any of that in his press conference? From what I listened to, no. He's really he's not sure if they're going to be done raising interest rates. They still are thinking that they need to get inflation down further. And this was one of the most startling things for me. It was he made a comment that the banking situation is better than where it was in March. Now, I could tell you there's a meme that comes to mind with Will Ferrell saying, "I don't believe you," because so I don't know what he's looking at. Maybe some spreads, but here's what the regional bank is doing. ETF after hours, it's down to $36. So I don't know why he wouldn't be watching price, because price should be telling you. And here's where the banking situation was trading in March. Here's where it is now. You tell me, is it better or worse than where it is in March? Price is telling you that the situation is much worse. So I'm really questioning what I heard today. The Fed did not blink, which means kind of that's usually a change in the market when you do hear something to the effect that they are changing their stance, and they didn't do that. In fact, forget about blink. I would maybe even think about the word blind, because this chart is very self-explanatory to see that prices, and there's many issues now going on with some of these smaller banks. Now, maybe he's just looking at JP Morgan and thinking things are great. I don't know, but I think that's a cause for concern, is that they're not even don't seem to be on the same page as what the market is telling you. Okay, so that's my opinions. I'll move away from that. You may have your own opinion. There's our thoughts. I always welcome feedback in our trading room, but one of the things was, hey, well, they're not done with what they're not done with the job yet of getting inflation down. Okay, that may be true, but a lot of the inflation data that we look at is also delayed, like the CPI report that tells you what already happened. And I don't think that really tells you like what's happening in the present day. But again, that's my opinion. I think that we're through with the inflation issues for the most part. There are going to be some things that are sticky, right? The services side is sticky, right? But I think you're going to see things move down pretty decently. Let's talk about crude for a minute, right? What is that telling you, right? I saw this note earlier or question earlier about why is crude moving down. Well, you could argue the same thing. Why was it moving down in March? I think it's really looking at what is going on in the banking sector and saying, hey, we've got a problem. Eventually these things will cause demand destruction. I don't know when that will happen, but crude is moving back to the lows even after that OPEC production cut which was in here. So perhaps we're going to head down to the 61 level. We'll see, right? And if we want to look at what overall, here's also what commodities are doing on the ag side, a little bit sideways. Here's what base metals are doing, right? They're now leaning lower. This is the lowest level that they've been in 2023. That's DBB, by the way, is the base metals ETF. The other ETF I showed you was DBA, and DBC, which also has gold in it, is also overall commodities is checking back to those March lows. So that doesn't look particularly inflationary to me. But there are, of course, other things like wages and so forth. Reminder that we will get another jobs report on Friday. So let's move on. Let's talk about the where the averages are, and then I will go into where the relative strength is in this market. So we're leaning lower again, and again, there's always these whippy type moves, right? We hit almost the top of value. Just interesting, the last two candles, right? So yesterday the price action touched the bottom of value and rebounded, right? So rebounded to here from where we were. So went all the way through the value area in one trading session. We almost did the same thing today, and we moved back below. We're back below these short-term moving averages. Just so again, just one day, volatility, intraday volatility has picked up a bit. Right, the VIX is still, that was one thing that I was watching today to see if the VIX was screaming higher during that press conference. It wasn't. It did finish higher, up 3%. So I wouldn't classify that as screaming higher. And I would basically watch, if we break, where we were at the highs of yesterday, because that was the range where we were back on 425 as well. All right, we'll see if that volatility begins to shoot up. So again, we are seeing the banks sell off here in the after hours. Pac West is announcing that it's going to be looking for strategic options. So again, that didn't take very long. We've got banks selling off in the after hours, right after Powell came out and said that the financial situation is fine. Okay. So again, I will stop with the opinions and we'll get back to the price action. So takeaways here for S&P. I would now watch the still processing a lot of the information, but you could see the S&P is starting to break the value area for the week, right? So now we're a little bit lower than where we were yesterday. So that's 4,100. And also note that we got rejected right at 4165. Again, 1 hour chart that I'm on right now is the value area for the week. What I was just showing you, the daily chart is the value area for the month. But note, we're going back and forth in both of those value areas. For the week, today we hit 4165 and got rejected, and now we're all the way back down to 4100. Again, whippy moves. Let's look at the Qs here for a second too. Remember what I said in yesterday's video. We kind of came into that top of value and we're very close to holding that. That's not the case as we're through yesterday's lows, right? And now we are now breaking into the value area for the month. So something that was showing relative strength, I would say not so much, and also now trading in the after hours a bit lower than where we were yesterday. So we did not hold, here's where we basically held the top of value at the end of the day yesterday. That's not the case. So more weakness as it looks like right now. IWM, right? This was something that I tweeted out earlier, and I actually did I did add some short IWM versus via this TZA ETF, which is 3 times short IWM. I've seen this play out too many times. We had this nice movement right into right when Powell was speaking, right into resistance 175, and I put on a short right there. So I did take some of that trade off, and I kept the remaining as a swing trade. I just didn't like the way that things were finishing up there in the press conference. So there's targets, and where's this thing trading at? So I'm going to keep this on as protection. I also, so this is really, guys, about making sure that you're on the right side of the market. You notice, like, I took out off a trade or two for a loss towards the end of the day, because I don't, as I said here, this Exxon was a loss for me. Again, I show the losers and the winners, because this is already causing me some pain. I'm down money in it, but I'm not going to make it into a huge loser, especially when you look to see what crude is doing. So there's TZA. I could take a target here, but I'm going to keep that on for some protection with these banks selling off here in the after hours. All right, so I mentioned that I would talk about some of the good. Certainly biotech, right? Some more deals, positive drug studies. So now we've got something to trade against, in my opinion, because of what we had previously, which some people do a great job at. I don't, because I'm more of a trend trader, is I'm looking for a signal, right? And a signal is a move back above the 200-day moving average and back above the value area. So if it holds 81.90, maybe we're onto something here with biotech rather than, basically just a move off the lows, right? And then the other group that has been doing really well, is the home builders, right? So I call this right now the B&B trade, even though this did not finish on the highs of the day. I did take a target in this, but this is where you've had recent leadership, and I would definitely say with the builders, right? They're the leaders of the market. They've been all year long. The biotech is something new. All right, and then areas, of course, that got beaten up were the banks, financials, aerospace and defense. A couple other areas that did okay today: the gold miners, clean energy stocks, and a couple names that reported after hours. Again, right, there's, this is what's really challenging about this market right now, is it's not all bad, and it's certainly not all good. Watching what the banks are doing here after hours, but HubSpot put up some good earnings. They went right to that 443 VPOC. That got taken out. Melly had good earnings too. So, you're getting this mix every day with the good and the bad. And, you could see some of these movers here after hours, right? And you've got a decent amount of them. SEDG had good earnings. Cuervo had good earnings. Zillow had good earnings. Now, again, there's some bad names in here too, but like I said, it's a mix every day, and it's a challenge to be on the right side of the market on a daily basis as things move and adjust, because it is happening very quickly. Let's look at the breadth. One of the things too to note, right, which basically was a change, has been a recent change over the last week, right, is to see now I don't have this updated for today yet, but the McClellan summation index, right? This is a nice, easy indicator to use to tell you whether there's more things going up versus down. Right now, more things are going down again, right? We had this period for a little bit where you had a rising McClellan summation indicator. Now that is this line, right in here. Now this is rolling over, so indicating more things and are going down versus up, right? And that's the same thing with the NASDAQ McClellan index. How did breadth look for today? Well, you had 25 names down, and then in the Dow, 5 names up, 356 names down, and the S&P 146 up. And you could see those new lows are starting to pick up. All right. So 52-week highs, right? You're still seeing more 52-week highs than lows. There's a mix of things in here, some biotech names in here, some consumer staples, some auto names, some home builders, some industrials, things of that nature. So, and on the downside, it's more of the same, more financials moving to the downside. But if we look at, instead of the 52-week, if we look at what's going on here with the 4-week highs versus lows, right? We're starting to see more lows than more highs. All right, so I will leave it there. Again, tomorrow we have ECB. You also have Apple reporting after the close, small company, right? So that'll be an interesting report. But in this market, my final word is, if you're managing to do okay in this market, you're doing a good job, right? This is an extremely difficult market to trade. Don't think that this is an easy market. There's a lot of twists, turns, right? And if you're not selling into strength on your longs, I think you're having a tough time in this market. And if you're selling the rips and maybe even putting on a little bit of a short position here and there, you're faring a little bit better. But overall, this market just is continuing to churn. And, overall directionless market is, to quote, one of my favorite books, the Darvis book, How I Made $2 million in the stock market, right? This market is more for the birds right now. We don't have really defined trends other than sideways. So more to follow. Again, we will go over more of the movers and some possible trade setups in the pre-market. In the TTG pre-market session, which starts every day at 10 after 9. So hope to see you in the trading room tomorrow. Have a great night.